Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting. We also have with us our Township Manager, William Broughton, our Township Clerk, Jamie Evelina, our Township Executive Assistant, Isa Abbasi, and our Senior Clerk, Jennifer Jackson. We also have with us our Township Attorney, or one of them, Bill Rupp from the law firm of Winnie Banta. The next televised council meeting will take place on April 1st, 2014, with legal input to begin at 7 p.m. and public input to begin at 8 p.m. The Affordable Care Act information seminar will take place on Wednesday, March 19th, 2014 at 7 p.m. at Teaneck High School. Additional information regarding this topic will be located on our website. The next, what fun, the next confidential paper shredding day will be held on Saturday, April 12th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Municipal Complex parking lot. The event is open to all township residents and employees. Shredding is limited to 2 33-gallon size garbage bags, and confidential papers will be accepted.
Mr. Mayor, what was that date?
For the shredding, April 12th. Okay. First item on tonight's agenda is a certificate of recognition to Mr. Ravallo from Chubby, the community's barbers, for 53 years of community service. Councilman Katz, if you'd like to join me off the dais to present this.
I'm not going to join you. I'm going to stay up here, but I want to say that he's done not 53 years of my head, but several of those years. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything about my face, but he did something about my hair, and we appreciate all your work that you did for the residents of Teaneck. What? Oh, yeah, Life diet. I'm in the biggest gainer diet.
So it's interesting, as we were talking about your certificate, I was like, oh, no, Chubby's going to be out here. And everybody's looking at me like, who's Chubby? And I said, I only know him as Chubby. I don't know him as Mr. Ravallo. Now, it's interesting that, and I'm sure we all know you, and I've known you since I was 7 years old, when your barbershop was right next to the movie theater. And it was funny because, there's two things that you remember as a child, is great times at the movies and the traumatic experience of your parents taking you to the barber at 5 years old. But it was always fun, and then you moved up on Cedar Lane, up by the bagel store, and then you moved over there. So it's you deserve retirement. So Teaneck Township Council extends a heartfelt congratulations and best wishes to Gaetano A. Ravallo, Chubby, on your retirement after 53 years of dedicated service as Teaneck Township's community barber. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you'd like to just say a few words.
No, I have nothing to say. I was looking for the check.
Oh. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. Would anybody like to say anything?
I think over the decades, Chubby's cut my hair quite a few times, and several of my brothers, and many experiences in your shop, and wish you the best of luck in what your next step brings.
I've been to Chubby a number of times as well. He knows every hair on my head by its first name.
Yeah. Well, there aren't that many.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Good luck. Okay.
I'll get everybody. Come on up here. Come on up here.
53 years. What's another couple of minutes? Come on.
Bring your scissors.
I don't want that.
All right, how do we do this one? You guys stay there. Don't come behind us. You guys come up
Put it in the
next.
middle. We'll go. Yeah. No, put Chubby in the middle. Yeah. So why don't you sit in the middle? Sit.
Let the kids go.
The mayor for the ceremony.
No, they take it sit. Come on, Ellie. Come on, guys. Only cut his hair since he has a snot-nosed kid.
Still has a snot-nosed kid.
Hasn't changed.
Okay. I think I got it. Let me make one more.
Oh, it's one of those.
Okay, so I got that one wrong. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on tonight's agenda is public hearing and adoptions ordinance. There aren't any, so that moves us into the main event always for tonight, good and welfare. This is where anybody can speak on any given topic that they would like.
Let me say something before we go.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry? No, there are no adoptions. Ordinances. Okay, so before we get to good and welfare, I think Dr. Pruitt would like to say something.
I've been to a lot of meetings in the last couple of months, and often people talk about not having received the emergency management manual. It's pretty good. It doesn't satisfy everybody, but we're going to put some out on the table in the hallway, and we'll put some more in the library. So I'm glad we didn't have a real emergency this time around, but the manual's worth having, and we're going to make them available for those who didn't get it. Thank you very much.
Are you good, Wilfer?
Yeah.
Can I just say something before we go over?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just have two comments that I want to just throw out there before we go into good and welfare. Comments that I've heard from some of the residents this week. First of all, one comment was about the billboard. How did it come about? I mean, it seems like that some people feel that that there was a surprise, or that the process of how it came to the council and what we did. So I just want to make sure that there's complete clarity. I don't know exactly how it was presented, who was presented, but this council has a subcommittee on zoning where we look at different areas of town and see how we can help improve the zoning and how we can improve revenue. And I know that the subcommittee, which is myself, Dr. Pruitt, the mayor, Steve Gluck, the manager, the township attorney, and sometimes one or two other visitors, and the planner, and that's where it was originally spoken about. And so there was a process where we spoke about it there, and then we brought it to the council. So if there's anyone who has a question about where that came about, that's definitely, I know, one of the original places. The second item is, I'm hearing some comments about, that stuff is missing on the website. I think that we have a pretty good website, and I know that we work very hard to keep it up, but I want to make sure that, especially as people are looking for more information, and maybe this will help our clerk with Oprah's, that if there's anything that you think, or maybe this is directed to the manager and the clerk, and the council certainly weigh in, if there's anything that you think that we're still missing, and I don't mean like the minutes that should be up there, other stuff that other towns are head and shoulders above us as far as website stuff, I'd like to start making that list. And if this means that we have to get more resources just temporarily for the clerk's office, then it's something I think we should discuss. So my request to the council, to the manager, to the clerk, and to the public is, please look at our website, look at other towns' websites, let's see and maybe even the clerk, what items are being requested that should be up there so that it make life easier for everybody. And then let's make this comprehensive list and see if there needs more dedicated resources for that. That's it. Thank you.
Now for the public. First hand. Nobody wants to speak? Dr. Powers? Team.
See if I can hold on to this time. Chuck Powers, Teaneck. I do want to make all of you aware, and the rest of the township as well, that Anthony Curtin will be presenting his idea about districting and enlarging the Bergen County freeholders on Thursday at the Ethical Culture Society. It's a really interesting idea. Anthony Curtin, a former policeman in Englewood and now head of the Bergen County NAACP, has been sort of exploring this idea, and we believe that we have 3 members of the current freeholders who are planning to come and respond to his suggestions. So it should be a pretty interesting evening, and something I think that we ought to be thinking about pretty seriously. So let me start by talking about budgeting, where we all know it best, at home, and this picks up on something that Mr. Katz was talking about. There we try to figure out what is to be spent on family needs, food, clothing, gasoline, home heating, what we expect the wage earner or other income to bring in, and how much is in the bank or under the mattress, wherever we keep our extra. Within minutes of any serious family budget discussion, someone in the family asks the obvious: what did we spend last year or last month for each category? What do we expect to be flowing in? How much is in the mattress or the bank? No budgeting can work without information about those 3 things. The answers to most of those questions for a municipality is in a document called its annual financial statement. The statement is to say what, as a town, we said we would spend and then actually spent, and on what. It says what we last year said we expected to get as income and actually got, And then it shows how much is in the bank as compared to how much the auditor thought would be there on the basis of what was there last year. For municipalities, that document, the annual financial statement for the previous year, must be sent to the state in the second week in February this year on the 10th. And that document, the annual financial statement for the last year, 2013, like so many others, is not now found on the Teaneck Township website, even though the township certified to the state last fall that precisely that document was always on its website. So several people in town have asked the clerk, under the law that says as residents we have a right to public documents, Oprah, to send the annual financial statement to them or put it on the website. The clerk, unless she can show that she needs extra time, is supposed to respond within 7 days. It's now been 14. As of this afternoon, this evening, the annual financial statement is still not on the website. And the clerk has not sent it to the people who specifically asked for it, nor said anything about that request that I know about. Does it actually exist? Does the manager have it? Does the CFO have it? Did the auditor refuse to sign the draft of it? Does council have it and not want the rest of us residents to see it? Where is it? Tonight you on council are having a budget meeting where you decide what you decide needs to be spent. And then we as residents have to fork over that amount so you can fund your next year's budget. And we do not have access, as is legally required, to the single document that tell us what you did with our money last year. Where you did and did not actually spend it for what you budgeted and why. And also, what last year did you actually commit us to spend over the next 20 years for things you decided we needed long term. You council reviewed the checklist that told the state that the annual financial document was always there on the website. It isn't there. Township Council, violation 1. And governing body, now you know that the officials you charged with carrying out the law violated the provision that also says if we ask for it, we get it, unless it doesn't exist. And now you have the unhappy prospect of going ahead tonight and budgeting without doing what every family in town would do, assure that you and the family you govern can look at what you as our agents, the administration of this town, did spend, what you expect to receive, and what you have in the bank. Where is that document? Do you know the answer, and we don't? If so, that's illegal. Do you not know the answer? Well, then you're making decisions without knowing what every family doing its own budget would insist on knowing at the very beginning of their budget discussion. Otherwise, it's a fool's venture, a ship without a compass. We need a council that plans ahead, demands needed information, and tells both the state and the public what they are, in fact, supposed to have and know. Those of us who are waiting in town to understand this cannot understand why you're having so much trouble developing a document that is fundamental to our understanding of what you're doing. Meanwhile, you are in the process of developing a budget. That we need a council that sets policy and sees it as implemented, consistent with what each council member committed when they took the oath of office, obeying the laws of the state and the township. And it is time that officials who do not think that kind of performance is required of them to get out of the way. The promise of a government that draws in expertise, follows its advice, and insists on the legal performance of the policies it sets and certifies is the one which this council majority promised you and so routinely fails to deliver. You, Teaneck, deserve better, starting with the annual 2013 annual financial statement due more than a month ago. You need it in time, we need it in time to make a budget and review a budget effectively. Meanwhile, Council, your bad budgets are breaking ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric? Bill? Are you keeping time?
Hello, my name is Eric Brower. I'd like to speak just a little bit to what I'd like to commend the council on. In these days right now where we're all seeking tax relief in the town, I've done some research on what other towns are trying to do to raise money to increase revenues, to take some of the burden off the residents for taxes in the town. And one of the things that constantly keeps coming up for towns all over the country is using assets of the town for advertising. Regarding the billboards, I can't say that right now I'm either for nor against them. I think that we still need more information to make a good judgment on whether billboards would be good for us. But I think it's important that the council continue to find ways to increase revenue in our township so that we can take some of that burden off the backs of the residents. There's other ways as well, I think, that we can use to find increased revenues, and I'd be happy to discuss that with the council at other times, but I'd like to commend the council on trying to find ways to increase revenue to reduce the tax burden on the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Dr. Rasheen.
Dr. Alex Rasheen, Teaneck. There is a number of things, while it was not discussed, there is Resolution E, and I would like later on to explain what exactly it means. And then also ordinances which introduce new zones. One of them for family entertainment, the other one for light industry, where it is and what exactly is considered to be there, because it's not clear from what is written. Now, the other thing is, which is a major thing, and which I'm trying to do here for 4 years at least, is to cut spending. Because getting for revenues is nice, but it means, okay, I want to spend more. Okay, no, first of all, let's cut it to within our abilities, and if then more money come, let's see whether we can return them to the residents or do something real necessary. Unfortunately, what it looks like, it's like the whole council was kind of addicted to spending, extra spending for more money, throwing on everything, and therefore our taxes are going up, and most of the people I spoke to, at least hundreds, okay, complain about too high taxes as an obstacle of staying and living in Teaneck. Also, it's a kind of sad fun watching how the entire council, which practically anonymously voted for all expenditures, big expenditures, unnecessary expenditures, unjustified expenditures during the year, now does not want to help incumbents, at least to put on a show of trying to do it at the end, okay, and does not support, for example, the suggestion by Ellicotts that yes, of course, the people who are sick and who are now on our budget, okay, on payroll, should stay there as long as they are. But suggestion was to take the resolution that we are not going to hire people, we are going to reduce the workforce by attrition as long as it is possible. The decisions which were suggested there last meeting, that, okay, let's stay it as is, it's absolutely arbitrary, based on nothing. It's a kind of decision, okay, I want to spend the same way I did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 days ago, doesn't matter. It is necessary to say it's for people, because you are driving people out of town. It's not fair. It's not right. Okay. Now the other thing is that inability, and I don't know who undermines whom here. Okay, because just some of the I have to just. To an extent, commend Lizette Parker, because she was the most consistent defender of spending. Okay, and did not give in an inch on, yes, we should keep it as is and spend more and spend fast, and it's our business, yours, okay, not people there decide what's done right, what is done wrong. Okay, one of the things was, and some of the members of the council supported it, to move this generator away from where it's put. And it would not cost much money. However, either the people who on the council who supported it, I know that Easton supported, Ellicotts did not put enough effort to convince others, to have a majority to force a delay in installation. Now we have very ugly, municipal building, which looks like nothing. But again, you see, the thing is that according to most religions, every good deed, even small, will be counted in the afterlife. I don't know what it is. Is it being re-elected or something just that? But if people want even now to play okay, the fiscal conservatives for the sake of appearances, let them do it. Help, okay? Do not undermine it, okay? And I don't see any desire in the council to do that. It's now a fight of factions, who stay, who's being undermined, and so on and so forth, because people who vote for spending probably have much lower chance to be reelected. Okay, so this is one thing. One more thing, which is a kind of relationship, okay? Last time, Dr. Powers said that he is full professor of engineering department of a reputable university. And then Mayor just asked me, but are you an engineer? To hear no. Listen, Mr. Mayor, my favorite artist, Clint Eastwood, says that a man should know his limitations. What are your just professional experience and department in which you work? Please. Keep it in proportion. Don't ask questions you are not qualified
for the last 4 years.
Thank you.
Thanks. Who's next? Anyone? Naomi?
First, in my nonpartisan hat, I want to let everybody know that the League of Women Voters of Teaneck and the National Coalition of 100 Black Women are going to show for Women's History Month Daisy Bates, the First Lady of Little Rock, at the library March 30th from 2 to 4:30. Theodore Lacey will facilitate a discussion afterwards. This was shown at the film festival. A lot of people missed it, and so we thought that it would be a good idea to show it again. So I will leave this, maybe you could put it up somewhere here, and I'll leave a flyer. So, anyway. Now for town issues. Two things. First, something happened at the last council meeting that I've seen before, where the mayor looks around if something comes up to need a vote. This happened to be the police cars, and the mayor looked around and said, do we have 4 votes? And it was, nobody really shook their heads. Nobody said yes, nobody really said no, and so he said, okay, we don't have 4 votes, let's not do it. Let's not deal with it. And I was really proud and thankful to Lizette Parker.
It's her time, excuse me, just stop time. Don't interrupt her, please. Thank you.
For Lizette Parker to make a motion. Hooray. I mean, this is not the League of Women Voters. That when we make decisions in the League, we do consensus. Everybody sort of shakes their head, or no, or yes, and then we decide how we're going to vote on something. This is a public democratic body, so that anyone has the right to make a motion, and if they get a second, that a vote be taken. That is the only way that the public knows how you stand on even issues that not everybody agrees on. So I would hope to see you do that more often. So you ask, is there a motion, rather than, oh, we don't have consensus, let's drop it. I really don't think that that's the right way to do it. And I just want to make a comment. I went home and I mentioned to my husband, who was on the council many years ago, about the police car issue. And he said, when he was on the council, he used to always vote no on police cars. Until one night, on a snowy night, he drove all night in a police car with the police. And he saw what the cars go through, the stopping, the starting, the on all the time, the off and on. And he said after that he never voted against a police car. So I'm just passing that on to you. Maybe some of you ought to, in the snow next winter, take a ride. Some of you have already done that. I don't know. And so I would hope that more of you will make motions, even if there isn't 4 votes, so we can see how all of you are going to be voting on something, even if it's not something you all are for. And then the billboard issue. It was never, there's a good reason why people were asking, where does this come from? It was never really discussed, other than when you introduced the ordinance. This is a big issue for this community, maybe not for the newer people, but for the people who've been here years and years, who remember the fight over Route 4. And any change is a change. And people need to know about it. The community needs to hear about it, to have a discussion about it. And it shouldn't take the few people who come to council meetings and speak about it and ask questions about it at a meeting for the public to find out. On certain issues that are more controversial, you need to have more open discussion and more openness. You were probably ready to vote on the second reading when the ordinance was put up for second reading if you weren't told that it had to go to the planning board. And the planning board, they made some suggestions that I still haven't heard you talk about.
Thank you. Next. Anyone? Alan?
Alan Stone, Teaneck resident. Didn't know I sounded that loud. I filed several OPA requests over the years. As part of a request that I filed on February 10th, one of the items that I had asked for was the oath of office. I don't know why I haven't received that yet. I assume it's not being redacted, but I look forward to receiving this information. An OPA request that I submitted a few years ago regarding the 4-day work week and Friday closures showed that there had been no public notice about the 4-day work week. There was no discussion of a contract change that was signed by the township manager and not by the mayor as required by the Faulkner Act. Of far greater concern to me, now that we're sitting in budget season, is the lack of openness and transparency about financial information. I asked questions in January about the size and scope of tax increases. Was it the 3.1% calculated or the 5.8% that I calculated? I still don't have an answer. The capital budget will be discussed this evening. It took weeks to get answers about a $400,000 line item, the fourth largest line item in the capital budget. When the manager was asked what was included, he didn't know. A week later, asked for an answer, he was still researching information. And now that I see what those numbers are, I don't know if it's the $85,000 contingency or the $10,000 allocated for kitchen supplies, including a microwave, an oven, and a refrigerator, that are of greater concerns to me. I agree with Mr. Katz. There are many items that are missing from the website. One of the items missing is the 2013 annual financial statement. And that financial statement includes critical details that shows what our condition is. It's very, very difficult to understand how this council can make appropriate financial decisions about a budget when we really don't know where we stand. Those questions that were asked during budget season earlier on about getting actual year-end numbers, I still don't know what those numbers are. And I don't know whether the changes that are being considered or the items that are being put through are being put through appropriately. Budgeting can't be a once-a-year or once every 4-year process. It needs to be an annual process. Going through what we're spending, look month by month, seeing where we stand, seeing how that compares. And all one has to do is to step outside, to look in one direction and look at a generator where we probably paid double of what we should have paid compared to other municipalities because we got one and only one bid. And turn the other direction and look at an old police building where if we needed it, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars extra because we had to reject a bid, and now hundreds of thousands of dollars more because of items that had never been included. The lack of genuine openness and transparency has cost taxpayers millions. Just looking at revaluation, several council members have filed appeals. Several council members looked out and filed multiple appeals. getting money back, realizing that they were overassessed, without realizing, without taking into consideration that there are thousands upon thousands of residents who have seen their taxes go up 16% on the municipal rate over the past 4 years. We can't afford another 16% increase over the next 4 years. It's well past time that this council starts making changes. Thank you very much.
Next. Jason.
Jason Castle, Teaneck. I want to comment on a few things that happened in the past council meeting, and I'd like for correction of the record to be made, specifically regarding some of the Oprah requests that I made. Mr. Deputy Mayor, you had not implied, but just stated explicitly that I was being disingenuous in saying that Oprah requests were applied for in January and that in March they hadn't been adhered to, and I was creating the illusion that it was over the course of 3 months. I was merely stating the facts. On January 31st, I requested documents. On February 14th, I requested documents. And in March, it just happened to be the third calendar month I hadn't received those. The correction I'm requesting is that some of the contractual documents that it was stated that I received immediately or in February, they were actually received today between the hours of 6:45 and 6:59 p.m. So I'd like for that correction of the record to be made. In regard to just things being onerous, Councilman Katz said that my request had been onerous, that I had requested documents that went back years and years, and thousands of documents had actually been had come up in these searches. And I don't like the word onerous only because it means troublesome or burdensome. And as I think, as elected officials requesting public records, that shouldn't be troublesome or onerous or burdensome. It should be just something that that should be available for public record. So no correction there, but I just didn't like the choice of words. Beyond that, I was informed that there were 65 redacted emails that were had been redacted by Mr. Rupp, and I would be provided with those emails. I don't know whose email addresses they came from. I can tell you that the governor's office has been far more compliant with the Oprah request that I submitted to them, which mirrored what I submitted to the township, and they are under heavy scrutiny, so I'm not sure why they can be much more compliant than our township. But lastly, I just want to talk about the word disingenuous. I know that in 2012, the saying by President Reagan was, "You trust but verify." I was in his funeral procession, so he's one of my favorite presidents, despite being of a different political party. I wanted to verify something that I heard in the town. And what I heard in the town is that in 2012, before I got here, merely months actually, the tax assessor had stood before the council and made a recommendation that there be a reevaluation or a reassessment. He went in to say that it was $740,000 for, that was the cost of the last time it was done in 2006. It took effect in 2007. But in 2012, on January 12th, he made that recommendation. I actually had to pull the tape to go back and view it just to make sure that what I was being told was accurate. What I find disingenuous is that the council didn't choose to make a decision until this year to actually have the town reassessed. But in that same year, when there was tax inequality across the township, several council members, almost a quorum, actually applied for tax appeals themselves, if not on one, but on multiple properties. So that incongruity, that inequality in taxes was recognized by members of the council. They filed for their own tax appeals, but chose not to comply with the recommendation of the tax assessor. And he and I spoke today about it, and I just, that's one of those things that's frustrating for me, because I've got my family here. We are looking to buy a larger home in Teaneck for our growing family, and I've got a good job, my wife's got a good job, but the amount that we're actually being pre-approved for with good credit is hovering slightly below what the average property value is here in Teaneck. And I think that's absurd. I mean, if our properties are overassessed according to the county by almost 14%, why would we wait so long to do a tax assessment or a revaluation? As a result, what I'm doing as a resident is on Monday we're just going to hold a workshop and show other residents how they can actually file for a tax appeal, because that's information that every resident should have. And if members of council, can take it upon themselves to do the same thing, then we as, I think residents should actually have the same opportunity. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay.
Ken Hoffman, Teaneck. First, I want to thank council. I received an email from Councilman Stern that you'll be finally reevaluating the EAB RVP so we can continue our work on Voti Park. I know it's been a harsh winter. You can hear it in my voice. But if one drives by Voti, you'll see that there's 12 new pieces of equipment that arrived today. The temperature is going to be above 40 degrees. The asphalt can be started to be completed. The work can go back in full, and there'll be full work staff there really starting tomorrow and starting to work and finishing it up. At our next council meeting, therefore, hopefully I'll have more information, as will, I'm sure, the township manager, on where we are along in getting this completed and being able to have the company Dakota turn it over to the township. Information is pending with respect to Mr. Sorge because of just the winter. Nothing really has been done, and hopefully I'll be able to get that information to council as well in the next 2 weeks concerning our remediation plan, and which will be submitted and approved by DEP, and then we have the release of the Green Acres funding. Finally, I want to thank the DPW for all the work they did this winter and for all the work they're going to do this spring, because the potholes are having babies as we speak. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other hands, good and welfare is now closed. With regards to the billboard, and as long as, not talking about it enough, the Record, the Suburbanite, the Patch, they've all done stories on it. The people who have issues with the billboard we've heard it at the planning board, people have come out. So we're waiting on information to find out what the revenue numbers is. When we can find out what the revenue numbers is, that's what we're going to vote on. No one was going to vote to put up a billboard until we knew, and we've said that multiple times, that some of us on the council have said multiple times that it all depends on what the number is before we would ever think about putting up a billboard there. And yes, the recommendations, when we put the recommendations from the planning board, is to keep it in the industrial zoned area off the Rossi. That will be in the ordinance. With regards to the two ordinances that are going to be introduced tonight, those were both changes made at the master plan. One was for World of Wings, to allow them to have video games. The second was to change the zoning to allow apartment buildings where the gas station is on Teaneck Road. Those were the two minor changes that we have on Teaneck Road, where the gas station is across from Fort Lee Road, across the street from the Dairy Queen. With regard to the Oprah request, Jamie, did he have it last week or 2 weeks ago? Or was it tonight at 6:45?
If you recall his comments from March 4th, he said that he had accompanied me into the copy room where the contractual documents were kept. That did in fact happen, and I did give him contractual documents. What was provided tonight via email were additional documents provided by our legal counsel because they had a file there. So he gave me all the contents of whatever they have, not just to fulfill his Oprah, just to also make sure that we have it on file in the township. And I told him that there will be additional contractual documents. There should be a third submission tomorrow. I just have to go through those documents for redaction purposes. That's what I can tell you about that.
Gotcha. With regards to Oprah, as Oprah turns, that most of the people who are running for council now are looking for information and trying to accuse this government of hiding information. We're going to give you the information whenever we can and as fast as we can, as legally possible. And that means we have a responsibility to protect our town, to make sure that we're legally giving you the documents that you deserve. No one's trying to hide anything, as it has been insinuated by some of the candidates. So, it's not onerous. When somebody has 15,000 emails over the last 4 years and you ask for a specific name and that person has to go through those emails, when we were managing our own email addresses, and then you don't no longer use those email addresses, and you have to go back to the contact your service provider to get those email addresses to make sure that you're not trying to hide anything. It does become onerous. So that's why we switched to going over to the township managing our email addresses, so that there's a record of it, continuum. There will be a continuation after we leave office of a public record of that, and the township will own all the government documents that we have. Does anybody else have anything to
I
add?
have to just add on. Jamie, do you have a timeline as to when the request will be the township's responsibility?
Would you like a summary of what's been doing so far?
And a timeline of completion, really. I don't.
As far as what's remaining from the January 31st over request, there are redacted emails that I spoke to Mr. Castle on Saturday about, and we'll be prepared to forward them to him tomorrow. Unfortunately, the redactions, you can still see through them, so I have to remark them. And there's also other emails as outside of those redactions, which have to be printed. I just have to compare them against the redacted emails. I can release those. That will be next week, possibly Monday. As far as the petitions are concerned, all petitions have been released, with the exception of Councilmember Stern and extra petitions that were not needed for certification for Lizette Barker. And
those were provided electronically?
Everything was provided. Everything is being provided electronically because that's the manner in which it was requested.
Who requested those, if I could ask?
Mr. Castle.
That was it?
The nominating petitions to be on the
Nominating
ballot?
petitions.
Those were open?
Yes.
Hundreds of them from each person who...
Yes.
And that's it?
No.
So...
I have a January 31st open request, which we discussed, which pertain to the emails, the text messages, the contractual documents, the financial disclosures. From that open request, the only thing that remains are those communications. There was also one regarding the petitions, and for that, he had requested all nominating petitions that were extra, any that were invalid, all that were certified.
For all candidates?
All except Mr. Sonnen himself. And he also requested the count, and because I don't give information and I give records, he wanted copies of your envelopes reflecting the total amount of petitions that were enclosed, your acknowledgement forms, which are my departmental form, all of your forms with respect to your campaign certification and things of that nature, and anything else that I forgot. So we were copying those documents for every candidate. And so the only, like I said, the only that remain are Councilmember Parker's extra petitions and Councilmember Stern's group at large, which we're going to be releasing tomorrow. The emails from the January 31st are going to be sent tomorrow. And as far as and there's going to be additional contractual documents coming. And there's going to be petitions tomorrow. And I've assigned Ms. Jackson full-time to serve as Mr. Stone and Mr. Castle until such time as the open requests are completed. So I'm down to staff. And they all have to be copied, yeah. So as far as Mr. Stone's request, I also have some from him. And some of the elements are redundant of Mr. Castle. Still, he has to be given the same attention. But there's also I have another request from him that came last week for the copy of my voter registration list, which is used to check off the names of the candidates. He wants a color scan so he can look at the check marks to see what have you. I don't know if that will be able to be scanned because I lugged that back and forth throughout the process. It's pretty banged up. If it can't go through the scanner, he can inspect it on site, and I'll advise him of that. And I received another request from Mr. Stone. So I have 2 pending from Mr. Stone and approximately 5 from Mr. Castle And so, like I said, until such time as everything is caught up, Ms. Jackson will be assigned to making copies and sending everything over.
Anybody on this side have anything to add?
I just want, in terms of your welfare? Yeah, I just wanted to thank Mrs. Kramer for acknowledging the fact that we follow the democratic process when we spoke about police cars last meeting. As you recall, the original request for 6 police cars did not pass, and Ms. Parker made a motion to see whether 3 police cars would be authorized, and that also did not pass. So I think we follow the democratic process pretty well, and thank you very much for acknowledging that.
And that's also, when I'm asking for 4 nodding heads, that's usually to put things on the agenda as we would do in our workshop sessions, not to just kind of take consensus before a vote. Anybody on my left? Go ahead.
I'd like the manager to respond to Mr. Powers' request for the financial statement.
Okay, the AFS, the annual financial statement is delayed. It's not on the website yet, has not been submitted to the state. The CFO is working to process that. She's working with the auditor to process that. The number of tax appeals that we've had have complicated the process and complicated the finalizing of the AFS. And it should be done very shortly.
What do you mean by very shortly?
Within the next few days, the AFS will be available.
By the end of the week?
Should be by the end of the week. We should have the AFS, yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have a question. Has the state been made aware of all this?
The state is aware.
Okay.
Yes.
One other financial question that's going to come up on the consent agenda. We, in municipal government, we have a fight between the annual year and the fiscal year. So one of them starts July 1st and one of them ends December 31st. So one of the items on the agenda talks about emergency monies to get through this period that we have. So if the manager would explain why that is there, it may help people understand why it's on the agenda.
So every year when we start the year, we work on a temporary budget. And as we move through the budget process, we may need to add to those temporary appropriations. So it's called an emergency temporary appropriation. That's the term of it. It's not an emergency. It doesn't mean it's an emergency. It's called an emergency temporary appropriation. So that's what we're doing. We're adding in the resolutions to increase the temporary budget to make sure that the township can function appropriately.
Just one question, and I in regards to the Oprah request by council candidates Stone and Castle, I thank the clerk for working hard and apparently assigning their first full-time campaign staffer, Ms. Jackson, to their campaign. Anything we can get them, by all means, please get them everything. Any information I have or ask, I would appreciate if there is any Oprahs that come forth, if you can share them with the council if it relates to us, because I don't want to be charged with not giving anything. So I appreciate if anything you need from us, please let us know. And if there's any costs or any expenditures, to please let them know as well. I know there's some rules about that, but I just request that you keep following that letter of the law and make sure they're given everything they got. And anything you need from us, please let us know.
And I just wanted to also mention, in the event I didn't mention it before, there was also an Oprah request for Mr. Castle for banking information, specifically resolutions that designated our depositories and produced and invoices and things of that nature. And in an effort to be, equal, I also, like I said, had Oprah requests from Mr. Stone, but some of these documents one element of his request is a copy of every tax appeal filed in the Township of Teaneck. And as you know, we have the carbon copies, the NC forms. So I have to ascertain what can be visible through a copy, what can't be. I may have to direct them to the County Board of Taxation for that. But there's there's a lot of elements to each of these Oprah requests. So, like I said, 99% of the time, I've never denied an Oprah request. We may be delayed, but we're doing the best we possibly can.
Okay. Anybody else on the left? Ellie?
No, you articulated very well, actually, about my position with the Oprahs. The word that I was using, but obviously you understand. I know I personally take your requests and all Oprah requests very, very seriously, and I try to make sure that I'm not missing any document, and it does go back many, many years. Thousands of emails, looking for certain keywords and doing searches, in all different ways. Yeah, I have spent a lot of hours personally on this, and I'm making a file, and I've gone through several reams of paper. As far as the township emails, I've given the same permission like every other council member, or I shouldn't say permission, it's it's public document, but I've given requests that the town does whatever harvesting you need in order to be compliant. And then as far as Mr. Stone's comment, I don't know if that was your list when you came up to the mic, or if you intend to submit an actual list, but that's my real request is, don't just claim that things are missing. Every single council member up here, and I'll say this, and whether we always agree or not, is working very hard to try to do what's best for the residents of this town and figure out how they can go home and solve the township's problems and issues. And, we don't just sit here and point and scream and yell that this is the problem and this is the problem. We know where the problems are. We're now looking to figure out how we can come up with solutions. And, Mr. Stone, you're running for council and you may be sitting up here. I'm hopeful that you can come up with solutions. So one of the solutions is you have suggestions of what's missing from the website. Make the list, submit it, and if we as a council have to allocate resources to make our website the absolute best, because, once upon a time, the Teaneck Council website was one of the best. It was. We had the greatest alerts. We were also the pioneers in the website field. A lot of towns didn't have websites, and we chose to go the website route. And we want to continue to be that best, and we want to be able to make life easier for our clerk's office so that people that have information requests can just do it as a click of a button and not as a written Oprah request. Make the list, what's missing, and we will try to allocate resources to get that information out there.
Oh, Naomi, you brought up the idea of finding other revenue sources. There are other revenue sources that we can find, but people will object to them also. So we have to really spend as much time as we can to get the best ideas that we can. But building height, cell towers, all kinds of things are revenue sources, but whether or not everybody's going to be happy is very much in question.
And I said this at the planning board, the people that were against Glen Point live there now. The people who were against Glen Point in 1981 live there now, and they are #1 taxpayers. And, I think that there's none of us who would like to, at least myself, God's not creating, or anybody's not, there's not going to be more open space in our town. So once you get rid of it, you can't get it back. But the minimal impact that we have when it comes to a billboard versus when we actually, people before us built Glen Point and built 323 Willow Street, where actual wetlands and habitats for animals, were taken away, and now we have a deer problem in Teaneck. It's funny that nobody was ever screaming and yelling about those things. So I think that you need to put everything in context, especially for those of us who can remember back to 1981 about the Glen Point fight, about the fight on Riverside, on River Street, where when it was the old tennis club, what people thought about the old tennis club, and we would have probably had a vibrant downtown if that plan had gone through. So with that, Councilman Gusson, Deputy Mayor, do you have something to say?
A couple. One, I think Mr. Powers, I don't know, I think he's left. But if we can address his question, you talked about this year's financial statement being delayed, and I think we understand the reason why. But I think he also specifically talked about the 2013 financial statement. Is that available, and can that be put on the website?
The one that would not, The annual financial statement would be for 2013.
No, I'm saying.
That's what, the 2012 is on the website.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's on the website.
Except for the one that's currently being worked on?
Yes.
The next most recent one is on the website?
Yes.
Okay. I think as far as Ms. Kramer's comments regarding the police cars and driving around and seeing how they're used, I can speak for myself, and I can also speak for Councilman Katz in this regard. He and I, for many years, drove around as a ride-along on New Year's Eve, some of them snowy, some of them not so snowy, but I certainly understand the usage, the way police cars are used. Police cars are not used the way you and I drive our cars. Police cars are basically idling the entire time they're being used when they're not stop and go heavy acceleration and braking, and we understand that. But there's one thing that's very, very different. The police cruisers that Teaneck used in 1974 when your husband was first elected to council are very different than the cruisers we have today. 40 years of automotive technology have made those vehicles very different. But the mindset of replacing 6 cars a year is a 40-year-old mindset. And so that's the concern that I have, not how the cars are used, because we understand how they're used, but the mindset of the replacement schedule hasn't changed in 40 years, but those cruisers have changed dramatically in 40 years. And so when we look about how people thought about this town 40 years ago, whether it was people fighting against developing Glen Point or fighting against developing the tennis club, going back through the tenure of people who were on council at that time, and Naomi, I think it's interesting that you brought up that history, because so many of the additional ratables that this town could have, so many of the additional sources of revenue, every single time it would come up, you and your husband, who was a former council member during the fact pattern of all of the lawsuits against the police department and fire department, who was then township attorney while those cases were being fought, the fact that you can sit here with your team of naysayers and cast aspersions on this council is almost laughable. It's beyond the pale. As far as Mr. Castle's concerns, and I think in January of 2012, I was living in Teaneck. I've been living in Teaneck for about 38 years at that point, and I was at that meeting, and I think I walked away from Mr. Tye's comments a little bit differently than apparently you and other people that have mentioned them, Barbara Toffler and others that have mentioned them since then. And I think Mr. Tye made a comment at the time that there really weren't enough sales that weren't short sales or distressed sales for him to really make the recommendation. And so while he thought a tax assessment of a revaluation would be necessary, I didn't feel that he was confident enough in his numbers. And so I didn't pursue a revaluation at that point, because a revaluation is a very costly burden on the taxpayer. And that was my judgment call. I think at the time there wasn't enough data. I think when we started looking at it at the end of 2000, towards the end of 2013, to put it in place for 2014, I think there was very clear data as far as the number of tax appeals filed last year. But back in 2012, I don't know that there was enough information to justify a high 6 or even 7-figure expense. And so I'll stand by the decision making that I made as a resident, as a taxpayer, when that statement was made. I know you came to Teaneck later than that, but that's what I saw when I was living here. I think that's about it as far as, and just one other comment on Mr. Powers' I guess, public service announcement as far as the plan for almost developing some sort of award system for Bergen County freeholder elections. I think it's actually a very interesting subject, and I think it's something that we should become more informed on as the process, as that discussion develops, because I think it's been an awful long time since Teaneck has had representation on the Board of Chosen Freeholders, and I think we've gotten short shrift for too long, given that we're the second most populous town in Bergen County. This is something that I think we should at least be in a position to take a closer look at, as we've been underserved by our freeholders. Democrat or Republican, we don't have the representation we deserve.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Powers wants to.
That'd be interesting.
We nominate Mr. Powers. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Next item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda. Would somebody like to move the consent agenda with the bill list?
I will move. I will move the consent agenda, including the raffles and the minutes listed, resolutions B through L, and the bill list in the amount of
$10,268,254.96.
Second.
I'd like to pull Resolution A for the purpose of discussion.
Which one?
A.
A?
Yeah.
A is our closed session.
C. The transportation one.
E?
Wait a second. Resolution B?
Okay, my bad.
C is the liquor license. A is the closed session.
Okay, you're proposing Resolution F. She's proposing pull in Resolution B. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cussin?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt? Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Raffles and minutes, I'm abstaining on the resolution.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, with an abstention on the January 16 minutes.
Yeah, I want to
Resolution B.
abstain from minutes that I wasn't present for.
I did indeed vote for all the minutes because I was present for every meeting.
Resolution B for discussion.
Yes, I'm fully in support of this resolution, although I do have issue with 6C, where it states there shall be no LED signage or message boards. And after doing a little research on ITS signs, we live in a society that requires or demands information from its government. And finding it difficult that we wouldn't consider having signage in Teaneck. If you're sitting here and there's a big backup on the Cross Bronx Expressway, why wouldn't we want our residents to be notified of such traffic occurrences? Or even if there's an emergency somewhere around in the area, I think it's something that we should reconsider. I understand what it's perceived to look like, but I think we need to do a little bit more research before we decide that we just don't want it guaranteed.
When is there a deadline as to when we need to pass this resolution?
Let's just before we talk, let's discuss the point on that.
Can I comment on that one?
Okay, so
if we have to pass it tonight, I'm of one opinion. If we have some time, I may be of another opinion.
Okay. Do we
I
know?
think we have some time.
Okay.
I think
So
if the council desires the time.
Okay. Well, here's my thing on it. It's, well, I guess what's 2 weeks going to kill anything anyway? But I'm not going to change my mind in 2 weeks. I'll say this, is most people still use their GPS or their iPhone or whatever that they're using when they're driving around. And when the traffic comes up, that's how I get my information of how everything comes up. So I don't know if I want to, one of the things is and this is an aesthetic argument. Like, if we're talking about that area and, all of a sudden I want to see that, fasten seatbelt sign, 10-minute delay sign like they have over in Englewood, aesthetically, I would have to put my green hat on and say I'm not for it. Just personal taste opinion.
Are we concerned? I just have one. Are we concerned about glare it may create, or just the existence of it?
Me personally, me personally, just the mere existence of it. Councilor Short.
I mean, I think it's another communication tool.
You have a valid point. I just disagree with you.
I'd like to see exactly what we're talking about. I'm not sure. But I understand what it would be.
Drive Route 4 East into Englewood, where there's 3 or 4 gas stations and a Starbucks in a row.
Right.
There's LED, they're large black boards that hang over the roadway with yellow lights, right? That say how many minutes delay it is on the upper level or the lower level, or if there's an Amber Alert, or if you've ever driven down Route 4 towards the George Washington Bridge, you've passed them.
Is there one going west?
There is not.
That's why they want one.
Okay, so that would be where they would put it if they were going to put one.
Well, it's likely that they would put it in both directions, but the greatest concern for traffic flow and information is heading into New York, not so much heading out of it. We don't have issues of the Alexander Hamilton Bridge and 87 and West Bronx urging to create hours of delays.
Let's talk about it.
I'll talk. I totally agree that the information is great. That's a major residential area. So now you're sitting, those are big, tall signs. Now you're sitting out there, you're on Lampert Road, and you look out, or wherever the sign is, and you've got those big, tall signs that's going up 25, 30 feet in the air, 90, 100 feet across. It's a billboard. It's a billboard in a residential area. That's what it is.
Paid for.
Well, I can't pay for it. Yeah. If it was different, I totally understand that everything you said. You're 100% right. It's just that particular location. That's really anywhere from really most of Teaneck is not suitable for the same reason why we don't have billboards. If this was Englewood and there were billboards or Paramus, those things could be up in Paramus all day long. But we're not, and I'm going to take that billboard argument, and that's why we're talking about adding, putting a billboard in one very unique area, and it's almost the exact same reason why I don't want it in this area over here.
Let me back the apple again. If it's in Englewood, which is closer to the bridge anyway, then we may not even need it in Teaneck.
Well, we may not need it, but NJDOT has a different opinion.
Right. Well, that's what we're saying. We don't want it. We don't need it.
All right, so trying to build consensus here. So how many people want more information and more time?
We have to say it loud. No head nod. No more time. I don't want it.
You're ready?
I'm ready to vote. Loud and clear.
Okay, so you want more time?
Yeah, I feel like we can hold off on the vote. It's not urgent that we pass this tonight. We'll give everyone a chance, Councilman Pruitt, to go take a look at the signs, see what the impact would be, and also with the understanding that if we're not going to allow this signage in Teaneck, it's not going to not exist. NJDOT will force it on Hackensack or force another one on the western edge of Englewood. The information is going to be there. They have requirements for how many of these signs they need to put up. They're going to get it. The question is, does it have to be in Teaneck?
One other question. Can they begin the process of fixing the road without waiting for us to decide about the sign?
The shovels aren't going to go into this road for about 4 years.
4 years.
So there's plenty of time for us to pass this resolution.
Also, it is DOT's right-of-way, and it's their right-of-way.
Yeah, this may be just a semantic jousting at windmills, if you will.
Okay, so we're going to wait on that. Okay, next item is introduction of ordinances. Oh, I'm sorry. Resolution F.
Resolution F, removal, disposal, treatment. Okay, this is material that comes from our street sweepers. That material just doesn't go directly into the trash. It gets carried away by a particular hauler and disposed of in a different manner.
Different than a regular trash stream.
Yes. Yes.
They already have the contract, right? This is the same contract?
No, this company doesn't have a contract. This company doesn't have it. Yes, somebody has it. It's expiring, and this is a different.
And they're losing it tonight.
Okay, so need a roll call on. So we're going to on resolution B. Do we need to do anything with that?
If you want a motion to table, you can do that, or you can.
We need a motion to table,
or just have it relisted.
Yeah, just have it relisted, please. And then if we can have a roll call on resolution F.
I just need a motion.
So moved.
I have a question. What is K about? I don't understand what.
We already voted on.
You already voted on it.
We voted on what?
K.
You didn't pull it for discussion.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to move resolution F, please.
Second. Councilmember Parker. Councilmember Stern.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Gussit.
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Katz.
Abstain.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Okay, next item is introduction of ordinance. I'd like to move that ordinance number 702014 and ordinance number 2088-2014 be introduced.
Ordinance 7-2014, an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the establishment of the L12 Light Industry 2 District and adding the definition of Family Entertainment Center. Ordinance number 8-2015, an ordinance amending Chapter 33, Development Regulations of the Code of the Township of Teaneck, respecting the establishment of the R-AH Residential Affordable Housing District.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Mr. Rupp is prepared to give that summary, all right, because of the nature of these ordinances, if you want a summary of it.
No, I think most people know. I discussed it at Good and Welfare, but go
The
ahead.
8-2-14, I'd like some further clarity on.
Which one?
8-2-14.
Oh, okay. That's just where at the planning board, that's the recommendation that we made forward when we did the site the re-examination for making the gas station across the street from the Dairy Queen, or like vertically across the Dairy Queen, be allowed to put up residential units.
But affordable.
Yeah, I mean, every aspect of, I think it's 21 units, you have to put 4, to meet with our COLA requirements, we have to put 4.
No, I know that, but is this dedicated affordable housing?
No.
Or
Just
is it-
the terms they put in there is just for having the 4, that meets our COLA requirements, so it'll be
Okay.
896.
See, the way it reads, I thought we were creating an affordable housing district.
No. Anybody else need to, is everybody comfortable now? Can we vote on it? Yes? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Does anybody need to hear Mr. Rupp say anything, or?
Do you have anything further to add?
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah, you see I'm itching over there. I'm trying to move the meeting along.
Can I add it? Yes. Is it necessary? That's up to you.
Is there anything meaningful?
Just understand that both of these ordinances were just recently recommended in the re-examination report, and that's why they're on tonight's agenda. But the talk about it has been going on for some time.
Ordinances that were discussed in the zoning subcommittee, in case anyone wants to know where the genesis and where some of the background just fall out of the sky.
Roll call.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Besson? Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next item on tonight's agenda, old business. 2014 municipal budget. Does anybody have anything to add on that right now? Does anybody have anything to remove? Any questions for the manager?
Just have one item, that is to take the $85,000 contingency fund out of the police station.
That's in the next one, capital budget. So, do you have anything on the municipal side? We'll get to that on the capital side. That's number B, the second part of it. Do you have anything on the municipal side, operations-wise, personnel-wise?
Yeah, I'd like to take $1 million out of the overtime budget.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to take $1 million out of the overtime budget?
I'd like to take one of the dump trucks out of the 2 dump trucks that we're purchasing. Remove one of 2 of those dump trucks.
Okay.
And capital?
Under capital, so that's on the next one. Okay, so right now, let's just deal with the overtime. Is there anything else in the municipal budget?
Have all the other the changes been adjusted, removing the park rangers and zoning, assisted zoning?
Once we're ready, I'll make those adjustments before the final document.
But they're noted duly.
Yeah, I have-
The changes we've made so far.
I have noted, yes.
Did we agree on what a budget freeze was in terms of hiring people? I think there was some confusion about whether or not we would have the same number of employees in 2014 that we have 2013.
We voted on it.
I'm not sure where we ended up with that.
I think we agreed on that.
It was the same number that we agreed with.
2013 level.
Same number as 2013 level.
Okay, that was the agreement.
Okay, getting back to the overtime now. So Councilman Katz would like to take out $1 million in overtime. Is anybody else in favor of that? No. I mean,
But it's hard to make decisions.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is I think that what we need is more information. I don't know if people are for it or against it. I think that, yeah, so if you could, I think what we need to ask the manager is, if you can get us a quick sheet of exactly the impact of cutting $1 million in overtime would be.
I can tell you that right now.
I mean, I understand what it is, but I know what you're going to tell me, but I'd also like it written down so that somebody can Oprah it later on, so that's why, So if you'd like, please enlighten us.
Yeah. Devastating, okay? We will not be able to continue to provide the level of service that we provide right now.
So you can't have a hiring freeze and cut overtime at the same time.
So we have.
So we ask them to work for free.
Okay, so we spent approximately.
It's actually an interesting thing.
We spent close to $1.5 million in overtime for 2013, and across all departments. To reduce that to $500,000 would be devastating. It is.
Did you have that list of the overtime that you gave us? Remember the 4 years
I can get that. I have something I prepared. I can go get it. Okay. If you give me a second, I can go back and get it. You want to grab these?
Are we going to have all the revenue numbers?
As soon as we're completed with the AFS, then you'll have all that information.
So by Friday?
As soon as we're completed with the AFS, yes, you will have it all.
Well, realistically, do you have a time frame for that? Is it going to be this Friday, or is it going to be?
You should have it by Friday, yes.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to add?
Marker.
Oh, redacting.
The overtime?
So, in 2013, we spent, in overtime, we spent 1.6. Okay? To eliminate $1 million, you're down to $600,000. The police department alone, the overtime for 2013, we budgeted $425, we spent $460. That wouldn't cover the police department alone. It would not cover the fire department.
How about if we went to 2009 budgeted overtime?
Okay, if we go to 2009 budgeted overtime. Okay, in 2009 we had more people. In 2009. So
also the salaries in 2009 were less.
Salaries are different. Contracts may not have been. It's going to be very difficult to reduce all overtime. If you look at overtime spending and you start with 2008, okay, what we actually spend all the way from 2008. In 2008, on all overtime, we spent $1.6 million. In 2008. In 2013, we spent 1.6. Spending almost the same amount from 2008 to 2013.
First of all, I was accurate about my comment that I don't remember from years past all the different departments being allocated overtime. And according to this chart, health department was never allocated. Human resources, obviously, we didn't have one, so we didn't have an allocation. Library, I mean, that's $100,000. I mean, we never had it before 2010, it looks like.
No, they were never budgeted. They spent it. 2008.
Okay, the library, they spent it, correct. It wasn't budgeted.
So I think it's attractive to take a shot at the overtime. I don't think it's practical.
I mean, it is. If the council is prepared to close a firehouse, I think that.
When you look at it from that perspective, and I want to highlight something. We look at 2013. We spent $460,000 in overtime for our fire department. 66 other municipalities in Bergen County operated their entire fire departments for less than we spent on overtime for hours.
Because they're volunteer fighters.
Correct. And so what if we were to do something like take one of our 4 firehouses, realign the staff from that house to the other 3 existing houses, and use that 4th house as an incubator for a volunteer force, and have our volunteers, dozens of them right now that have been through the fire academy, that are active members of other towns' fire departments, ride as a volunteer corps in Teaneck to help us reduce our fire overtime, and to help us allow attrition to take place in our fire department as that incubator grows our own volunteer fire force. I would say you can close the house nearest to where my kids sleep, or the one closest to where my mother sleeps. But this is something that we should really consider. 66 other towns, almost 800,000 people go to sleep every night in this county under the watch of volunteer firefighters, that they spend less in an entire year than we spend just in overtime for our fire department. I mean, this is something we really need to take a look at, the way we provide this service, as if there's some fundamental change that can be made.
I think that if you want to make this kind of recommendation, you set up a program for Saturday all day long.
Henry, Saturday's my Sabbath.
Okay, Sunday, whatever day you'd like, and have people come and talk about it. You cannot go to a volunteer fire department at 9:30 on Tuesday night.
No,
Henry, you may have not been here for the last 7 years, but I've been saying this exact same thing for 7 years. And I'm looking for ears that now realize the pain that our taxpayers face year after year when we keep outspending our peer communities in this one area.
My reading of this community is they're not going for a volunteer fire department.
And I'm not suggesting a full volunteer fire department.
Or even a partial volunteer fire department.
I'm talking about adding volunteers.
You're saying adding bodies, meaning it adds.
Would you like to make a motion? People, you have a second.
I'd like us to really consider that when we look at the staffing size of our police and fire department, we make decisions based on what number we had last year, regardless of the number of fires, or regardless of crime rates. We just try and keep a head count number that seems right. So I'd like us to commit to really seriously reviewing our staffing levels and the services we provide, because this is just a perfect example of how we don't know what the right number is, but when it comes to looking at this overtime, we know that number's wrong, right? That number just doesn't feel right.
But I think
we can't do anything. We have no plan in place to do anything about it.
I think we do know what the right numbers are. We have significantly reduced the fire department. The fire department was up over 100 people. Now it's down to 91. We need to be able to staff all of the apparatus so the apparatus can be available to respond on calls. Teaneck has 10 runs a day. What volunteers are going to be able to get here 10 times a day to come ride the truck?
There's more fire apparatus in Bergen County with less than 1 million people than in all of New York City. Maybe there's too much apparatus to worry about manning.
So a rescue truck? Manning a rescue truck is too much?
I don't think that that's what Deputy Mayor Dustin is trying to say, but I think one of the points that you do make is, but we go through this every year about the staffing levels and what's the appropriate staffing. So I think the solution comes down to, in this budget, is there support to put together, set money aside to do a study to actually look at our public service, especially our police, fire, and DPW, to see if we want to do a study.
I'd like to constrain it to just to police and fire. If Mr. Manager, before we're done with this process, can we get a ballpark idea of what it will cost to have a consultant come in and do an assessment of our staffing levels? Because I don't want to budget $30,000 if the study is going to cost $100,000.
Well, we had one gentleman that suggested a study, and it was over $20,000, right? For the fire department. That was for the fire department alone. It was over $20,000.
Would you think it would be comparable for the police department? They're similar-sized operations.
Oh, look, and the other thing I'd like is just to, I think this might be, is look at, old business shared services number 3. I think that the government just touted the fact that he put $8.5 million aside. So why don't we see if we can use some of that to look at our service levels and then talk with Pagoda. You can talk to Pagoda.
I also...
Field and...
I just want to say one thing, if I can, on Deputy Mayor Gustin's comments. If I can, I'm sorry. I mean, everyone's poo-pooing Deputy Mayor Gustin's comments, but the reality is he's not saying let's fire everybody. He's not saying... What he's saying is let's add people that already exist in Teaneck to help supplement now to help supplement the residents and the current firefighters. Now, Councilman Schwartz gave me a different take on how that practically would work or could work, because he comes from the volunteer fire world, and he's certainly very familiar with that. But so I'm not against looking at Deputy Mayor Gusson's idea. I think it's a very good idea. We're looking to take the resources that currently exist, which we always do, looking at the best resources, like we found some of our resources in residents where we put them on advisory boards, and have them volunteer to help the residents of this town. But I do suggest that overtime has to be controlled, and we have to give stricter boundaries. It's not like we're only giving them the overtime budget to run your department. So I'm making a motion that we adopt the 2009 budgeted overtime. And those are the boundaries. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know the day-to-day functions, and I don't want, we have great department heads, and I'm going to lean on them
Are you recommending the budgeted
that we adopt the 2009 budgeted overtime. In 2009, we had a manager that said, this is what we should be doing for overtime, and that's what I think that we should consider.
But we spent more.
I understand, but there was also some
excuse me,
extenuating circumstances.
Now, I just want to make sure that when you're talking about this, we also have contractual obligations that we have to meet. Right. When we're talking about this, we talk about minimum staffing levels that we have to meet. So if you don't have 4 people who are working at regular pay, there still has to be a 4th person there. Okay, so you can't arbitrarily take somebody off a truck. You can't arbitrarily take somebody off a post. You can't arbitrarily just say, we don't have the money, so we're going to do it with 3. Okay, so then you start coming into different aspects of, unfair labor practices, things that we didn't do, and then the legal budget goes up, and then you're robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes, and that's going to be what you end up happening. So there are people who negotiate this, and they expect to have a certain amount of people here every year, and they make decisions based on that. So if you want to put in, saying that if we run out, think that everything's going to be sane, if we just say take off the overtime, and that because we cut the overtime budget, somehow we're not going to put another person on a truck, or we're not going to put another person on a post, it's not going to happen.
Let me comment. I think that we want to look at the cost of municipal services. We get somebody into town that's this passionate and have them look at it. Not at 9:30 in the afternoon. We can't make a decision like this. If you want to know what the number in the police department should be, what the number of the fire department should be, get somebody that knows what they're talking about and have them come in and study the township. That's worthwhile money being spent. For just arbitrarily to say we'll cut everything out, that's ridiculous.
Mr. Manager, I don't have my budget book with me. What's the overtime? What's the proposed overtime budget number for 2014?
I'd have to pull that out. It should be the same number as in 2013. It's probably the same number, but I'll get the budget book out.
Same as 2013 spent, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, it should be the same as 2013 budget.
I don't have my budget book with me.
But I'm 2 seconds. I'll pull it out. I'll pull it. Just give me 1 second. He's getting my budget book.
But my point is that you're asking us to go to the 2009 numbers budgeted when we didn't spend that. We exceeded that amount. So why would we go back to a number that we didn't meet then?
We exceeded it by
$300,000.
Yeah.
Right. Which when we went to... It seems like we always seem to exceed it by $300,000.
If you can't control yourself, please step out, Dr. Powers.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
It seems like we based on these numbers, we always seem to exceed it by $300,000. So if we're going to be exceeding it by the same $300,000, I'd rather exceed it at 870 to 1.1 than 1.3 to 1.6.
I'm going to sound like
I'm sorry, Dr. Mark.
Yeah, sorry, I can control it myself. I just mean very patiently. The overtime analysis is like, I think it's worthless. I mean, it depends on what your salary is. If you lay off 10 cops and now you put guys in overtime, we've laid off cops, our overtime is going to go up. But we can get rid of this overtime. We can go to Ellie's level very simply. Let's hire 7 more cars, 7 more guys. We don't need any more overtime. It's very simple. So I understand.
But you add on benefits. You add on.
I understand that, but this is not the full picture to look at and say, oh, it's just cut. So I don't think it's disingenuous.
No, and also in each one of these years, there's specific events that triggered or did not trigger a significant overtime expense related to it. Now you can say that, hey, in any given year, we're likely to have some incident that's going to have some peak usage of overtime, whether it's a flood, a winter storm, a nor'easter, whatever the scenario is. Every year, there's one major event that rolls into town. But
the winter that won't quit.
Yeah. And the other comment I didn't make when I was being patient was, and then trying to agree with Mr. Gusson, if there is a study we can do on that staffing study, I'm definitely for it. And if it's free from the governor's fund, that's great. If it's not, $20,000, I think it's worth that money as well to do the study on the staffing. I mean, I think to see how we staff, that's totally can't fight that.
I think before, I'm sorry.
Let me agree with Adam for a moment. This is a very important moment. It makes more sense for us to have somebody look at the staffing in our municipality and come up with a reasonable, rational understanding than to just take overtime and throw it out, because we had a winter this year which we could not predict what the overtime was going to be. And we can't say, well, it's snowing outside, but we don't have any overtime money, we can't move the snow. We need to look at the staffing in the township and what the optimal staffing is from an intelligent point of view.
Councilman Parker.
Now, I was going to say if there's consensus to make a cut to the overtime budget based upon the 2009 allocation, then I would need more information. What was staffing for all of our departments, and what is it now currently? I just can't make an arbitrary decision just cut it to that level when I don't know if it's realistic.
I mean, I think there's also a lot of different things. You know, if you have a bottom of the scale police officer, you know, first year police officer who makes somewhere around $40-something thousand a year, or it's a longtime officer with top of the scale, maybe it's a sergeant who could be making $115,000 a year. There's a big difference in the overtime cost of each one of those guys. How does overtime, you know, whether it's a bottom of the scale guy or a longtime officer who's, you know, at the top of the scale, well over $100,000, when there's an overtime needed for a patrol officer, how does that staffing assignment how does that choice get made? Are we calling in the $40,000 a year guy, and if he worked the whole year on overtime, you know, time and a half is $60,000, or is it $150,000? How do we make the choice as to who gets called in for overtime, or how that actually gets staffed, and what that hour costs us?
Okay, so what happens is overtime has to be distributed equitably. Okay, everybody's got to have a shot at getting overtime. So they have a system of cards for different squads. So you're on the list based on when you last had overtime. So they rotate through those cards and ask people if they want the overtime for that particular shift. So it could be a $40,000 a year guy. It could be
that's tradition. That's state law. That's unique to our forces contract. Where does that system come from?
It's in the contract that we have to. It has to be.
It's a negotiable term and condition of employment.
Right? So it's unique to Teaneck's contract.
What I'm saying is it's not unique to Teaneck's contract. It is a standard term and condition of employment relating to the rotation of overtime. Any change in the method, right, whether it would be written or just a custom, would require a negotiation.
As our next contract comes up, maybe that's a term we want to spend more time focusing on as we look to control overtime expenses. Because is it likely that it would happen?
Well, you have to give away an awful lot at the negotiating table, and maybe it doesn't save you any money, because there'd be a lot more guys higher up on the scale than the guys at the bottom of the scale voting to protect their earnings as opposed to younger officers with lower salary schedules.
But Councilman Guston, this is very interesting, the story this paper tells. The amount of spending from 2008 to 2013 is almost the same, except for 1 year. It's almost the same. This is almost a natural level that we have of spending, and we're spending overtime only when it is required.
No, but I think it tells more, because when you look at the average wage of, say, police officers in 2008 versus their average wage today, it's been several years of compounded raises.
Yes.
Yet nominally we're spending comparable amount of money. We're buying less hours of overtime, and maybe instead of looking at overtime dollars across this scale, it would be better or more helpful to look at overtime hours.
I provided counsel with that for the police department.
Yeah, and so when we look at it by hours, you'll see that the total number of hours is going down each year. The cost is staying the same, but each hour of overtime costs more. We're spending comparably the same. That means we're buying less hours of overtime. We're managing our staff better than we have in the past. And so, I don't know that the overtime number by itself, you can't just take this number out of the context.
But can I have one last comment? I'm sorry. And everyone here is right. That's the truth. But my concern is the following. I'm not a big fan of the overtime budget. And I've always expressed that year after year since Gary Sage days. To me, it's like you have a budget. Our budget is high. Now you have a safety net or a cushion just in case. And now every year we have an overtime budget for the overtime budget. Every single year, year after year, we go over the overtime budget that we budgeted. So it's like we have an overtime budget for the overtime budget, and it's like,
I mean, seriously, though, look, I want to move on, but I get
we have good managers, and good managers should understand that every year there's going to be a disaster. And good managers should understand that they have X amount of dollars to spend, just like we have in our house, right? I mean, you don't have...
No, it's not the same.
It's not the same?
No.
At the end of you can tell your wife, here's your $10,000 credit card, but if you go over, there's $2,000 extra.
No.
And if you go over that, there's another $2,000.
No. At my house,
yeah.
I shovel my walk.
Right.
That's it. I shovel my walk. And then I go back inside. Right? The town does not have the luxury of just saying, okay, you want to know something? I'm just going to shovel. Let's just shovel East Cedar Lane. I mean, let's just plow East Cedar Lane. Let's leave Johnson. No, let's leave Vandalinda. Let's leave the other ones to where they are.
No, but that's not accurate also, because you know what? It's like Deputy Mayor Guston said about the cars. Okay. You can't have a 40-year mindset and when things are changing. Also, you see what Chief Wilson did, and I'm not. When times were tough and everyone had to tighten the belt, he closed the community policing department. He took detectives, people that we haven't seen in years, and put them in street clothing, and he made do with the budget that he had. Okay. Were the police department happy? Probably not. Did the residents suffer? No. Did he stay within his boundaries? Yes. We gave him, and he was creative manager.
See, but you're saying those years...
We have good managers, and we had great employees. I
don't understand how you're going to re-engineer unless you want to close down or put a volunteer fire department.
I'm not closing anything.
Okay, you're not closing anything, but hold on.
Nobody on this council knew that we were sticking firefighters from fire headquarters into Station 4 to Man Station 4. Well, I don't have any women, so Man Station 4 when we didn't have employees to be at Station 4. Nobody here knew that. We don't have to know the day-to-day. In fact, it's according to our, we're not responsible for the day-to-day.
Overtime.
Okay. What?
They manned them with overtime.
No, they didn't.
No,
they didn't. They manned them with taking a truck out of fire headquarters and putting them into Station 4. Okay. They physically moved the truck.
Wait, we have one per... Anyway, go ahead.
That was creative, by the way. The manager who was in charge of that's a Wilson mover. That's a Verley move. That was very creative.
Okay, but Al,
Councilman, we can't... Dr. Pruitt, and then... Okay.
Can I get 3 councilmen to join me in recommending that we have a municipal staffing study done, and in this budget.
I can't vote because I'm not a man.
Yeah, I think it was not fair.
Councilperson,
Uninvited
women.
Councilwoman Parker.
No, I'm really serious. We're talking about overtime.
I think Councilwoman Parker.
No, Councilwoman and councilmen, I need 3 people to recommend that we do a study on the municipal staffing in this township.
That's what we said from the beginning. We're
For
already
this,
moving
for this,
forward.
this budget year.
I think, Dr. Pruitt, I had asked the manager to get back to us with an estimate for what the studies would cost.
Whatever it costs, let's do it.
No, I'm not going to, sight unseen, spend whatever it costs.
No, it's not going to, wait a minute, we're talking about $100,000 in overtime or whatever it is. It's not going to cost that. We need to look forward into the future in terms of what it costs to run this town, and the people who work here have the highest part of the budget. Let's look at that.
I agree with you. The issue is...
Are you one of the 4?
No. Because what I'd rather have is the manager come back to us at our next meeting with an estimate for what it is we need to budget for that study. If it's 20,000, if it's 40,000, if it's 140,000.
Please, if you need to step outside, step outside. This is not going on. No.
Okay, Adam, let me agree with you. Let's have him do that. Let's have him do that.
Yeah, that's what so I want a number first before I budget some sight unseen amount.
Okay, so I can get 4 people to say we want the manager to find out about the answer to your question.
I think that was my proposal, yeah. So if I could have 3 others.
Can I get 2 more? Who's the other 2?
Whoever would like
All
to
right, Mark, we got 3. We need 1 more. Going once. Can we get the manager look at this cost?
No, there's a majority of council that would like the manager to come back to us with an estimate for staffing level assessment and study for police and fire department.
Oh, great. For the municipal complex, everybody.
The workforce.
For the workforce in the township.
Well, I think
workforce.
That doesn't make. I mean, that doesn't make sense on some levels, Dr. Pruitt, because
it makes sense looking forward in terms of how much it costs to run this town.
We have a purchasing department. You want to tell me what you want me to pay someone to study the staffing level, the proper staffing level of a purchasing department?
We're not talking about the purchasing department.
You just said every department.
DPW, the building department, the health department, all of the departments.
But you just said every department. So like my purchasing department,
you know what I'm talking
only has
about.
2 people.
I'm talking
you can't
about
have less than that.
Municipal workforce.
Henry, we're ready. We're good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
2014.
All right, so
budget.
I just need my direction.
Police and fire. I think that's where we have a majority of council.
No, I want the municipal workforce done.
Henry, I don't think you have a majority of council.
Do I have anybody else who agrees with me? I'm not talking about the
Well, let's give a price involved. It's the same.
Yeah, it's a price.
Let's just get a quote.
Great. You guys done? Okay, 2014 capital budget.
Okay, in this budget.
I'd like to remove one of the trucks.
You'd like to remove one of the trucks? Okay. Anybody else want to remove one of the trucks?
No.
No? Okay. Henry, you wanted to take something out of the capital budget?
I just think that we ought to find a way to make the adjustments in the police building without using the $85,000 as contingency. Make it work without spending the $85,000.
So you want to take the $85,000 contingency out?
Right.
Anybody else want to take out the $85,000 contingency? 2? Okay, so you'd like to make a motion?
I make a motion.
Can I
that we-
explain the contingency?
I understand
And the
the
potential consequences of not having a contingency?
But contingency doesn't have a label. It doesn't say what it's going to go for. I'm saying do it without the contingency.
Well, I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. If there's no contingency in a contract, if something occurs that we haven't allocated funds for, okay, it will take a minimum of 36 days to have that money allocated, which could delay the project. The spending is going to come back across this council's desk, so to speak, okay, and none of the money...
Appropriation.
Right, none of the money is going to be spent unless it's absolutely necessary. But for us not to have a funding mechanism in place leaves us open to delaying these projects.
But what we're saying is that the $315,000 that remains is a contingency to me, because when we were talking about that building, we didn't talk about it. So now there's $315,000 more than we had before.
We are in the process, and I've said this, we're in the cabling, for instance. We now have the cabling for the building on state contract. We finally were able to locate a co-op we could join and a vendor that would give us a price on that service. That has not been available to us in the past. So the $400,000, because you're allocating that or authorizing that spending, does not mean we're going to spend $400,000. We may not spend that much. It's very possible that we won't spend that much. But as I said before, in the other contract for the building, we have $130,000 allocated to an almost unallocated in a $3 million project. If something goes wrong, it takes us 30 days to get a funding mechanism in place.
Okay, with that said, I think you've explained yourself. You'd like to make a motion to take it out still?
Yeah, I make a motion. Can I get a second?
Second. Okay, can we get a roll call on that?
Yeah, I want to amend the motion to take out the entire $400,000. Because I didn't vote for the project. I didn't vote for the project in the first place. I'm certainly not in favor of spending another $315 or another $85 on top of that for a project I didn't vote for in the first place.
Would you like to amend that motion for the $400,000?
I don't accept the amendment.
Okay, so can we have roll call on the first motion, please?
Accept the amendment for...
Yes.
What's the motion?
There's a motion.
We don't operate by Robert's Rules of Order, first off. We have separate procedures for voting.
Let him go. We're going to make his roll call on the $80,000.
No, I amended it, and now my vote gets...
No.
Mr. Rupp, if you could...
Rupp, tell us what to do.
I second Adam Gus and
you seconded Dr. Truitt.
One amendment is in order to a main motion. An amendment has to be moved and seconded.
Which it has.
Then there has to be a roll call on the amendment.
Okay.
To determine whether or not the motion is amended. After that roll call.
Thank you. Roll call.
Thank you.
Councilmember Parker?
I don't know what I'm voting on.
You're voting on his amendment for $400,000.
No.
Councilmember Stern?
I mean, I didn't vote for the building, so the answer is no.
No. Go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Gusson?
No.
Councilmember Pruitt?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, no on the 400. My vote is yes.
I'm against the amendment.
You voted right. You voted right.
I'm against the amendment.
Did he vote right?
No, don't worry about that. Look, if you vote yes, you are voting to take $400,000 out of the capital budget. If you vote no, you are voting to keep it in. Okay? If you want to,
it's better to clarify than to have to go back later and do it again.
All right.
Can I say something before we vote?
I think it's important. I think everybody understands.
No, I don't think everybody. I don't know.
Everybody understands. Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going.
Start again?
Keep going.
Councilmember Pruitt?
I'm against the amendment.
So you're voting no.
Councilmember Katz?
I'm yes. Yes to the amendment.
Councilmember Schwartz?
No to the amendment. No means yes.
No. Okay. So it stays in. 400,000 stays in. Now, would you like to make your motion?
Motion to take out the 85,000.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, take out the...
85,000 out of capital budget for the contingency plan. So, if you vote yes on this motion, you're voting to take out $85,000. If you vote no, you're voting to keep it in. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Parker?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern? Deputy Mayor Gusson?
Yes, 85 is better than nothing.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
No.
Mayor?
No.
85 is gone, right?
Yeah, 85 is gone. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, he voted. He abstained. It doesn't count.
Who?
There's 4.
He abstained.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yes.
There's 4.
That said yes, right?
Yes.
Well, yes. 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 Yeah.
I can take my socks off.
Yeah, so it's up. Okay. Anybody else have anything?
And quite frankly, if it takes another month to make sure it was gotten right and make sure that that money is necessarily spent, then it takes another month.
Well, it's very possible that we could wind up paying damages to the contractor for delaying the project. So that's the problem with doing it, is we could wind up paying damages under our contract to the contractor.
But if we're not, if the money has to come across our desk or our table or whatever, and we may not spend $400,000, we just made, now we're tightening up the bank, 315 is.
It's just very simple. If something comes across, we just got to make sure that it now, you got to stay on top of it, so if something comes across, it comes down in a timely fashion in front of the council. So just let the construction manager know that, if they see a problem, don't let it sit, that this is how long it's going to take.
Give them an overtime for the overtime budget.
Okay.
Shared services.
What else? Next item is shared services. Anything to report?
I'm sorry. I don't have any updates. I don't. Someone listed that?
It's old business, so we're keeping these things open. We started your shared services.
I'm compiling the document. I'll have it ready very, very shortly.
Okay. Where are we on municipal court security?
Municipal court security, I had a meeting with our labor attorney. Had a meeting with labor attorney. I explained to him what it is that the council would like to do with the special twos. He's conducting his research, and I'm waiting for a report from him on that issue.
When do you think that he can have that report?
I will follow up with him again tomorrow to see
You could
exactly.
send him and say, the council would like to have that report by the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be before then, but I'll follow up with him.
Okay. The 2008 police and fire dispatch. Where are we in consolidation?
On dispatch, Councilman Stern has been working to set up a visit for the council to that location. That's where we left off.
Do we have a date?
We do not have a date yet. I'm awaiting. I sent an email to the captain in charge of the Public Safety Operations Center. I'm awaiting a couple of dates from him. And then I will be able to coordinate with council. We're going to have to, obviously this is going to be a quorum, which will involve, notice and so on.
So are we going to wait? Are we looking at May or are we looking at April?
I'm hoping to do it sometime in April, if I can. I mean, if not, it'll be sometime in May.
Okay.
April is a tight month, correct?
Yeah, April. That's why April's no good for me. May would be better for me. I don't know if anybody else has an opinion. Okay. The exemption of the properties on Cedar Lane, the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District, exemption of residential properties.
Yeah, this is something that we've discussed, I think, at least in some level, with some intensity, every year since the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District was separated from the TEDC. And it's something that I think is important to look at. So many of these addresses are so far outside the actual benefit of the district. The special assessment on all properties in the district is painted with way too broad a brush, and to assume that a residential property, an apartment on Cedar Lane and River Road benefits equally in dollars as a retail store in the core of our shopping district is absurd. And so I think in effort to provide some relief to these taxpayers, and this is assessment on top of the assessed share of property tax, that the Special Improvement District moving forward has to take the task of doing more with less, and that we should be exempting all residential property from the Special Improvement District special assessment.
Residential as well as
Can I ask a question about this? Will this reduce the amount of revenue the township has to work with?
No.
Or just the SID?
No, just the SID. It would reduce the Special Improvements District's budget by somewhere around
about $20,000.
About 17 and change, right?
About $20,000.
I have two questions.
Go ahead.
Number one is, how much is still left on the loan that we took out?
We took it.
2005, right?
Ultimately, if this,
There's 12 years left on that loan.
12 years, how much money do we know?
So is it, I think it's $40,000 a year?
40,000 a year, I think. It's on the budget there.
A year?
Yeah.
I'm just giving you the proposed 2014 budget, but hasn't been introduced yet.
And the second question is, can we first get a list of, I know we got a list of all the properties, can we get a list of the proposed properties that you want to remove?
We did. All the ones that are tagged as residential.
But it's not an accurate list, because if you look at some of them, they may be tagged as residential.
We had this conversation 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You brought up the same point. We had this list circulated. You were going to research it. And
I did
now we're
research.
3 months later at the exact same place. Are there specific properties you have questions about? Or is it just another wholesale question about the entire list?
No. Deputy Mayor.
I think it's time that we actually make a decision on it.
Don't forget, we need to include the Type 4C, which is on the last page, which are the apartments, properties that have apartments, more than 5 units.
Right.
So it would be those four properties.
It would be
those
property class
2.
Property class 2 residential and property class 4C apartments.
Correct.
Would you like to make a motion with that?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'd like to move.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, can I just say one thing, because this should have come up in a previous discussion, I'm not quite sure it did. There are some mixed-use properties here, retail bottom, residential on top.
Correct.
The way that Teaneck funds the Special Improvement District is based on ad valorem basis, essentially assessment.
Right.
That is not the only way to do it. The difficulty is that property has one assessment. It doesn't break it down between the residential portion and the retail portion. So you should understand that you have that problem. That
Understandable, but however, when we're looking at a retail first floor and residential second floor, my contention is that residential unit may benefit from improvements in the special improvement district, because they're right in the district. But properties that are just apartments a half a mile away are not benefiting and shouldn't be assessed.
But I think
I'm not concerned with splitting that hair.
Okay, so on mixed use, you would leave it in the district.
Leave it as
But mixed use may be labeled here as residential.
No.
Yes. No, just make a motion, please.
Wait, no, is that accurate? Is mixed use not labeled here as residential?
No, so it's commercial, I believe.
It's for a commercial. If there are, if it in there, it's for a commercial.
Correct.
No, if we're going to vote on this, we should have an accurate list. It should be one list, not this list just makes it all mixed up.
This is one list.
This is one list.
This is one list of every property in the district.
Everything on there.
This is one list of every property in the district. And I'm suggesting that we instruct the attorney to draft an ordinance to change the special improvement district assessment to exclude type 2 residential and type 4C apartments from the special improvement district assessment.
Second.
But to leave in mixed uses.
Correct.
Well, wait, mixed...
There's no mixed uses in there.
Can you tell me, is 2 residential mixed use?
There's a motion and a second. But how it's a roll
No,
call?
then you should have made a motion before we had clarification.
I made a motion. He seconded it.
We had
If you don't want to vote for it, then don't vote for it.
Still discussing it, though. Is motion,
So
second,
discussion on the motion.
Okay, the process with which we end discussion is making a motion and a second.
So we can't have a discussion on the motion?
If it fails, then we can continue to discuss it and make a new motion.
have
But
a
these are the
discussion.
rules we operate under.
Well,
we can't vote on this because we don't know what we're voting on.
No, we know
This
what you're
list,
voting on.
this list.
No, you don't know what you're voting on.
I understand that. I don't know what I'm voting on, so I can't vote on
Under
it.
your rules of procedure,
yeah.
making a motion and seconded does not end debate.
Right.
It actually
starts debate.
commences debate.
On the motion.
On the motion.
Discussion on the motion.
For the record, the Cedar Lane Management Group has been
We are
advised
very well aware of this.
that this is coming.
This is not a surprise. This is, we've been talking about this for
So
some time.
discussion on the motion. Here's my discussion. And I need clarification. And I agree with Deputy Mayor's comments about the apartment buildings. All right? I don't agree, and I don't know if he mentioned this, but I don't agree that just because some of the commercial's not getting services, that they shouldn't pay for it. And I know that we're leaving commercial in, because I think that that's a mistake on the Cedar Lane improvement, on the management on the Cedar Lane Improvement District. I think that everybody who's paying should get service. But my question here is for clarification. Does 2 residential include the mixed use? Because you're saying no, and I'm not sure you're saying no.
A 2 residential unit is a Class 4C multifamily as opposed to A, right, which is retail. So, but if there is retail associated with it,
yes,
right, store underneath,
correct,
2 residences above,
so it includes mixed use.
That should be a Class 4C property.
Class 4A.
4A, I'm sorry. It should be
Class 4A.
It's
only Class 4C if it's all residential apartments.
Correct. Right.
Okay,
so your concern,
right, is that
if it's a mixed use,
correct?
Then it's assessed at 4A, and it's not a part of my motion to have excluded.
Correct.
Okay.
Meaning, if accidentally a mixed use is classified as a 2A,
then we should reclassify it, but
it should be reclassified,
and then it would be back in.
Right. Okay. The motion is on the concept. I'm looking at this list, and there are some properties I know from a tax appeal that are in fact mixed use and shown as multifamily here. Right, so I know for a fact it's a mixed use.
Right. So now where is it? It's shown as a 2A.
It's shown as a 4C.
Is there a particular one?
The one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I see it.
Is Cedar Lane Associates Max Floss.
Yeah.
Right? I know that's a
the FDU bookstore
because I did a tax appeal on it. So.
All right, I can't vote for this unless it's a separate list with just the residential piece on it.
Okay. Henry, it's part of page 1 and part of the last page.
I see where it says residential on page 1.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there any more discussion on the motion?
Just chop it up and put it on one page, and then you can vote for it?
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Okay, roll call, please.
And we're voting to draft an ordinance.
To draft an ordinance to amend the existing ordinance?
Yes.
Councilmember Stern?
Yes, but just to put on the record my concern about some of the properties that are listed as residential, which have some commercial use in there. We'll have to deal with that as we go through the ordinance. But in the concept, absolutely.
Deputy Mayor Duffy?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
No.
Yes, and I echo Councilman Stern's exact comments.
Okay, Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next item on tonight's agenda, miscellaneous, new business, communications.
Oh, wait, I do have it's not on here, but I just wanted to report. A couple months ago, I reported to you guys that Apple Mortgage Cake was going to be premiering in Teaneck, and it was originally going to be on a Friday evening. Yes, it's since been changed to April 10th, which is a Thursday. So it doesn't present any conflicts for individuals on the dais. So it's
regardless of gender.
Regardless of gender.
Under communications, did everybody receive the League of Municipalities endorsing resolution for the 2% cap?
Can I talk?
I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
So Angela Logan, who is a Teaneck resident, will be there, and it's been requested that I draft an ordinance or proclamation declaring April 10th Angela Logan Day in Teaneck. So I'd like to work with Jamie to create that.
A proclamation.
A proclamation, yes. There'll be a cocktail reception prior to the event. Everything is being funded by UPT Network, and it's going to be held at Teaneck Cinemas, and there are various organizations that are sponsoring, the Rotary Chamber of Commerce.
And what time is that on the 10th?
7 o'clock. But reception is taking place at 6.
Show us at 7?
7, yes. And sorry.
No, you're done.
The actress Kimberly Elise is playing Miss Logan may be there also, and there'll be a Q&A after. The Teaneck International Film Festival is also sponsoring, along with other organizations, Coalition 100 Black Women, the Teaneck and Gordon Vicinity Club of the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women, Links, and there's some others that I'm forgetting.
Thank you. Do you have a question?
I'm going to sit next to you during the movie.
Okay. And we're done. On communications also, did everybody get the League of Municipalities bulletin on the 2% cap? endorsing resolution.
Got that email
Today?
Yes, from the clerk, yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, I think that it's appropriate that we all endorse that 2% cap, as the League of Municipalities also says, and that we could send it out to our legislators. Okay, so that's a motion, that's a second from Councilman Katz. Roll call.
Parker?
I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm voting on.
I'm just voting on did you get the endorsing resolution?
I saw it, but I didn't.
The League of Municipalities to endorse the 2% cap is about to expire.
So we need to send our legislature to continue it, yeah.
To support continuing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have a problem.
So we're voting on the resolution?
The resolution that
supporting resolution to League of Municipalities stance on the expiration of the 2% cap.
I need to see it. I don't know what it says. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, we're going to put out a resolution on the consent agenda.
Yeah, the consent agenda.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So
Yes.
So whatever. Do we have four nodding heads? Yes.
For it to be listed as a resolution.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's good. But it's going to be.
Get its day for a vote when it's listed.
The problem is the vote is, I think, expiring April 1st, and we need to get it to our legislatures. Our next meeting is April 1st. So either we're going to.
So you want to walk in a resolution tonight?
what day is it? What day
I just want to endorse take the.
Right, but the mechanism to do that prior to them voting on it would be for us to walk in a resolution tonight at 10:15 with no ability really for public comment.
Yeah, so, all right, so just put it on the April 1st agenda, and then they'll get it April 1st before they vote, hopefully.
Mayor, would you like me to send a letter instead?
Yeah, I think that's
saying that the council...
Given scheduling difficulties as far as adopting a resolution, that council, a majority of council is in support of their position.
Perfect. Thank you. Council listed items? Councilor Stern?
Yes. Recently passed legislation to assist emergency responders. Some of you may or may not be aware the legislature passed overwhelmingly last year as legislation called the Yellow Dot Program. I don't know if you've heard about it. It was actually signed by the governor a month or two ago. It was passed by the legislature. I think 38 or 39 of the 40 senators voted for it. About 65 of the assembly people voted for it. It's a program that would be taken care of by municipalities where an individual with a medical issue would have a yellow dot decal placed on the back of their vehicle so that if they were involved in some sort of an accident where emergency responders would show up, the emergency responders would know that the medical information for that particular individual is in the glove compartment.
So it's sort of like an augmented first alert bracelet?
A simple low-tech system for documenting people's medical conditions and notifying emergency response personnel that the information is stored in the vehicle. In many cases, and we have a number of emergency responders on the council, you arrive on the scene of a vehicle accident, on Teaneck in particular. There's a decal on the back window of the vehicle outside. There's a yellow dot. This was passed by a couple of states already. A number of municipalities have done this already. I just really wanted to bring it to the council's attention. I think we should ask the manager to look into, and I will provide him with some information, how we might go about doing this in Teaneck. What, if any, costs would be involved? There would be some costs, obviously. Maybe we can get it covered by some corporate outfits, fairly holy name. It's not an expensive program. We have Route 4 going through Teaneck. We have 95 and 80 going through Teaneck. I think it's, when TVAC pulls up or the fire department pulls up and sees a yellow decal in the back of a vehicle, person with a medical condition, they know while they're doing whatever they need to do to look in the glove compartment for the medical information that person may have. I've read about medical personnel not being aware of blood clotting medication being taken, blood thinners being taken, where it would be helpful for them to know that. So it's just something that I wanted to bring you guys' attention, look into it.
Absolutely.
And
I think we're all in agreement.
I think if it's okay with you guys, I just want to try to gather together some info and pass it along to the manager.
Absolutely.
CXS noise, Councilman Schwartz.
Yes.
You'd like them to be noisier?
Yeah, they actually can't. The noise is getting out of control, and unfortunately, so many people have turned to us for help, and they frankly don't want to hear when we say there's nothing we can do. Because it really is, there's nothing we can do. We can write letters, and short of maybe just walking on the train tracks at night, that actually causes sirens to go higher. So I'd like to invite our CSX representatives, send them a letter. They'll probably ignore us, but at least we can start that process, to meet me at 1 o'clock in the morning at 855 Windsor Road, which is the ambulance corps building, and we can sit there and we can watch these trains blast through town every night. Now, I'm not sure about you guys laying in bed at night. I lay in bed at night, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
We used to have them come into the council.
Well, I only live 2 blocks from there, so I know what you're talking about. What I also know is the last time I sat in a meeting with CSX government affairs official who basically looked at us with a straight face and told us to take a hike. He's the most protected industry in the entire country, and he'll do whatever the heck he wants.
Probably going to say it again.
It was probably the most disheartening meeting I'd ever been involved in. He didn't want to be in the room, and he did not care what we thought about him or CSX or the railroads in general. But he came. But
let's waste his time again.
He showed up. He let me yell at him for a minute, and then told me to go to hell.
Good, but let's waste his time again. Let's do it again.
Okay.
And I'd like to just add one more item. Maybe we can also send a letter to each of our congressmen.
Oh, maybe
because they at the time
federally regulated. This is all federally regulated. Interstate commerce. This is, they're untouchable. And so the only other option is to do what Bogota's former mayor used to do until they got sued all the time. He'd grab a cop, and the two of them, the mayor and the cop, would go climb up into idling trains and arrest the conductor. It's great. Until they would have racked up gigantic legal fees for these false arrests and false imprisonments.
Yeah. So I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like it's a ride along. Like in the new cop cars, you go.
The word batshit crazy just comes to mind when it comes to him. All right, so we're going to invite him to.
So we're inviting him to a council meeting?
Yeah. No, to a closed session. Oh, you want to do it in an open session?
You want him to close?
Because I think the last time we had him here was under the auspices of security, and it was in a closed session meeting.
I think
the issue was concerned as far as what hazardous materials were being transported through town.
I think the community would like to hear what he has to say. So put him on TV, have him come to me.
But I think Councilman Cass's idea of writing to both of our congressmen is not a bad idea. We should probably draft a letter. Probably not a bad idea. But if you guys don't want to hang out at the ambulance corps, you're happy to come to my house, which is only about 700 feet from the tracks, and sit in my bedroom. Well, not my bedroom.
The movie theater meeting.
Listen to what it's like.
On your back porch.
Yeah, on my back porch. And listen to all the trains and watch all the soot gather on my house.
I grew up on Linden Avenue, and so literally 40 feet from the train, and I'm immune to it at this point.
No, but
I'm just immune to it.
But just for people that are watching that may not realize the history, and everyone knows that Deputy Mayor Gusson does not back down from fights, but he was actively involved when we met with our senator, and they were involved, and then we met with our congressman, and they mediated. And honestly, they just thumb their nose at us, and there's nothing we can do. I mean, whatever.
But let's see.
But we can go through the motions again, 100%. And
no, there's no reason why Mr. Short shouldn't be able to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's a great experience. It really is.
I want the experience. I just want to know why at 1 o'clock in the morning. We don't have any crossings.
Actually,
is someone dying on the tracks?
CSX even went one step further. They were upset and annoyed at us that we were daring to challenge them and try to protect our residents, that for about a day or maybe an hour, they took away a $10,000 grant for our fire department to buy foam. And then, when the media heard that they were taking away a grant for our fire department to buy foam in case their vehicle, all of a sudden they changed their mind and they put it back in.
This is going to be good.
It was a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Okay, so next item on council list that I put on, believe it or not, the State Department and the government of India would like to see how local government is run, and they chose Teaneck, New Jersey to send their people. Yes.
Really?
When they did. No, they'll be here in the next meeting, April 1st. So they would like to meet with us in closed session, and then they would like to observe our council meeting, if it's okay with the council. You know, that's
Make sure our ancillary staff comes out that night.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they'll come out and then anyway. But anyway, so they would like to come and view how local government is done by an efficient local government like Teaneck, New Jersey. Everybody in favor of having this?
Sure.
Okay. Great. Township Manager's report.
Okay, first item, I probationally appointed Kenneth G. Segrist to the position of laborer in the Department of Public Works, effective March 17, 2014. Second item, I just want to announce the retirement of Chief Robert A. Wilson. His last day of work will be this Thursday. I want to publicly thank Chief Wilson for his service. He served the council. He served the township for almost 30 years, and I think he served with honor and distinction, and he will truly be missed. And we wish him the best.
Absolutely.
I don't know if any other council person would like to say anything.
Can we do this? Can we invite him and his family to a council meeting and give him a certificate or whatever it is?
Yes, we will. I will.
So, I'd like to, if I hold my comments for them?
Yeah.
I want to spoil it, you know.
He's not moving out of town, he just changed the job.
He doesn't live in town. But
Okay. That's it?
No, I have a little bit more. Okay. Some items that council had requested, the information from New Jersey Transit on billboards. We filed an Oprah request to gather that information. Hopefully we'll have that shortly. Information to be posted on the website regarding the election and petitions. All that information was posted on the website.
It's buried, though. It's not easily accessible. I don't know why it can't be on the front page as a link, but...
Well, on our website, there isn't anything on the front page. It's not set up that way to have items on the front page. The historical overtime report, I provided council with that report. You have it. The meeting with FDU to discuss various items for FDU. We're working on that. The subcommittee of the council is going to meet with FDU. We're trying to arrange a date for that. Councilman Stern's working on the issue of having council visit the emergency dispatch center. Dr. Pruitt, myself, and Councilman Katz, we met with another, and Lizette Parker was there as well. We met with a company and discussed energy aggregation.
There's three of us.
Myself.
Who was at that meeting?
It was Lizette, Dr. Pruitt, and Councilman Katz, and myself.
I thought I counted 4 names. I was confused.
I was the 4th name. So we met on the 17th. We're going to be bringing in another company to another energy aggregation company and to speak with them prior to making a recommendation to the council. As I stated before, the SLEO 2s, I'm waiting for a response from the labor attorney. Deputy Mayor Gusson had requested information on Ridgewood's pothole app. Basically, what they've done is they have the same thing that we have. Basically, they have it's a service request item on their website. They also have an app that they created for their website. We can have an app created for our website. It costs about $2,500 to have an app for our website, so it is possible to have that. Then we have the Senior Freeze program. We've created an article on the Senior Freeze program. We'll have that out on Thursday. I did speak with Councilwoman Parker about that. I provided her with some information on that. Council wanted to know if the state had numbers on how many seniors were taking advantage of the program. The state does not have numbers on that. We made contact, and they don't have those numbers. And
Yeah, 14.
also, oh yes, I'm sorry, 1475 Queen Anne Road, we had a meeting with 1475 Queen Anne Road. They agreed to install a temporary sidewalk before the project is built. We're hoping that within the next week or two, they may have that installed. They've already submitted a design of the temporary sidewalk to our engineer, and he's approved that temporary sidewalk. So that's moving along very well.
That's great.
That should be in very shortly.
You have accomplishment.
And that's it.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Any opposed?
Good. Yes.
I gotta go over here and patch up the work. Okay.